What's up, guys and gals of the movement world? It's Sean Mishka, the Movement Miyagi, coming to you once again on behalf of Football Beyond the Stats and our Movement Play of the Week, this week for Week 8 of the 2024 National Football League season. And the play that we are going to feature today in Week 8 should probably come as no any shock or surprise. It's the one play that everybody is talking about. Jayden Daniels, Noah Brown, Washington Commanders, obviously all odds stacked against them. Hail Mary on Sunday against the Chicago Bears. Let's get into it. If you follow the National Football League at all, or if you just watch Sports Center or a post-game show here or there, you probably have seen the highlights already for a number of different reasons. And for some of those reasons, we are going to feature today that we're going to really dive into and talk about. Remember, our 2024 theme here at Football Beyond the Stats and our Movement Play of the Week is around players riding the wave showing players what they're capable of. And it's really where the constraints all coalesce together, the problem and solution dynamics, the performer environment relationship, and the mutual reciprocal exchange. This play, we're going to see that featured front and center. So let's get into it. Let's watch it a couple times through as we typically do. And it's going to take a little bit of time. Most of our plays here at Movement Play of the Week don't take the type of time that this play does. And I'm guessing that probably because of that reason, you're going to see a bunch of different glitches in here as NFL YouTube gets in the way. But you can see already right off the bat, Jayden Daniels, rookie quarterback for the Washington Commanders, throwing up the Hail Mary. All prayers are answered. The miracle actually happens for the Washington Commanders, who in all practical intents and purposes deserve to win this game. If you watch the whole game in its entirety, the football gods were sort of speaking here as this game come to an end, because the Chicago Bears probably had no business actually winning this one. Only end up obviously ahead here 15-12. 2 seconds left on the clock, fourth quarter time ticking down. Last time through that, we'll watch it at full speed here before we get into the nuances, we get into the intricacies, and we get into the true skill maturity of Jayden Daniels, rookie quarterback for the Washington Commanders. What he's done here in this 2024 rookie campaign of his is nothing short of genius, because though he started off the season struggling a bit, as most rookie quarterbacks do, he has really begun to find his groove. In this game, on this day, when he just is 6 days removed from a rib injury where I don't think he got to practice a whole hell of a lot last week. And I also think that there was some concern that he wasn't actually going to make the start on Sunday in Washington against the Bears. So all those things being considered, those organismic athlete constraints, those individual constraints have to be factored into this. When we're talking about twisting and turning, torquing to throw a ball as far as one can, as one will during a Hail Mary. Now he ends up throwing this ball in the air, probably 60, 61 yards, I think. I didn't count it out, but we'll see when he releases it here in a bit. But all of those things need to be factored into that. The other thing that needs to be factored into this is that which what most people are talking about. Number 29 for the Chicago Bears, Tyreek Stevenson. Obviously, probably getting the short end of the stick right now, but rightfully so, deservedly so. He's off screen right now, but we're going to point to him a little later. Again, if you've seen the highlight, you probably already know what I'm referring to here. But before we do that, we're going to talk about some of that maturity. Again, now we have it in slow-mo, 50% speed. Some of the maturity in the skill evolution already at a very young and early time scale or timestamp in the timescales of learning for Jayden Daniels right here, number 5, quarterback for the Washington Commanders. 2 seconds left on the clock. Obviously, he has more than 2 seconds here in order to let this play develop, in order to make people miss, extend the play, take the time. We should also probably mention that the play right before this was really a blunder by the Chicago Bears defense, allowing a 10, 12-yard out and right beyond the sticks to give the Bears, or excuse me, the Commanders, the opportunity to throw this Hail Mary from a little closer to the end zone. Without that play, where the Bears were playing way back, very big time prevent, very soft, allowing everything in front of them. They allowed an easy completion right before this. And so I think what we need to kind of take into consideration, remember, every problem doesn't exist in isolation, or any problem, I should say, doesn't exist in isolation. It's all a product of what came before and maybe what will come after. This one, obviously, there is no after. Now, I'm saying all that because I want to continue to remind everybody sort of what is on this canvas and palette that Jayden Daniels or any player is painting with. One of the things I'll say right off the bat is, there's different schools of thought here in regards to defending a Hail Mary. A lot of people and a lot of defensive coordinators will drop 7, as the Bears do here, and leave 4 to rush the quarterback. Some will rush 5, which I believe at least gives the time clock and shortens that up, tick, 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 just a little quicker, right? Here we see Jayden Daniels with, I don't know, extending the play for 11, 12 seconds. Now, we're not going to know exactly unless we put this on a stopwatch. And now we have that 50% speed. But think about how long he's holding the ball here. And these nuances might not look very dramatic to you. They're very subtle by Jayden Daniels, but it's because he's keeping this really perceptually attuned and connected fit. Like now he's first releasing the ball, and as you can see, he's releasing it there. Let's go back a little bit. He was releasing it right around from the 35-yard line. And it ends up, obviously, right at the goal line. So we're thinking about how far he's actually throwing this ball. I think it's probably a yard or two ahead of the goal line. So he is throwing this ball over 60 yards. But in order to do that, as you see him not only biding the time by running the length of the field as well as the width, he goes from right to left. He goes north and south, just drifts up, drifts back, pulls defenders to him, and then goes back the other way. Doesn't really get himself in harm's way at any one of these instances. You see him right here. These little dyadic relationships that are unfolding. This is the wave, guys and gals, when we really think about it. This is the wave that Jayden Daniels, as the surfer, is interacting with. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how we might be able to facilitate skillful behavioral interactions like this, or movement problem-solving dynamics for the players that we might work with. And so I do want to belabor this, as you can see that ball get released right from the 35, his own 35-yard line. Again, let's kind of think about what Jayden Daniels might be going through here as he surveys this. There's these local movement problems that are unfolding right in front of him. There's those waves, if you will, that he needs to interact with now. And they are subsequently, simultaneously, and successively interspersed with other waves, other local problems, or what we would refer to in ecological dynamics as this landscape of affordances, a landscape of opportunities to act. Really what I'm saying there is how he acts at one moment will feed into how he's going to act in the next moment, or what problem might be presented to him. But let's remember, it's not just in the what is right in front of him that makes the biggest difference to him. Yes, that is where a large challenge, a large threat, a large perturbation to his system dynamics are unfolding with. He can't get tackled by 55, 99. What's the other numbers that are coming after him? 90, 95, 55, 99. You see where I'm going with this. He can't get tackled by any of that. Now, there's really only 3 rushers, because this 53 seems to be acting as a spy to a certain degree, even though once this time starts ticking, 53 should probably think about not being a spy any longer because Jayden Daniels is not about to take off and run 65, 70 yards to pay dirt, I don't think. Though I get the idea of a spy on a guy like Jayden Daniels, especially when we see 53 backpedal here, stop and settle into this. So we look at these problem solution dynamics and we see 53 as the spy there with really only 3 rushers then, who you might think to yourself, why aren't they just chasing and pursuing? Well, they are trying to actually get him to the ground, of course, but not give him the opportunity to be able to step up and throw, knowing that he's about to throw this 65, 70 yards in the air. So I get the way that the defense is playing this to a certain degree, with the exception of 53 and that spy. But again, this is why I think we need to have more than 4 rushers. We need to have 4 and a spy. So 4 plus 1, where that 1 plus 1 would be a spy as opposed to 3 plus 1. And now we're going to talk about some things that happen on the back end here, but I want to give credit where credit's due because the surfer interacting with the Rave is mostly about number 5. Most quarterbacks in this situation here, and we're going to see it from the other viewpoint so we can see what Jayden Daniels is seeing before we get here. What I want to give credit where credit is due to Jayden Daniels is because a lot of quarterbacks are in a rush to get the ball out of their hand because they're not as sensitively connected and therefore as open and responsive intentionally as a Jayden Daniels is to the what is. They're going to feel that threat, feel that challenge, feel that perturbation, and probably throw the ball a lot earlier before his guys are actually in position to make a play. Now, we can talk about this as much as we possibly want. We see 4 guys down here near the ball where the ball is being thrown at the goal line. And if you've heard anything here, and now we're going to see it better from the other view, let's look at when the ball's in the air. You see a guy, and I apologize for how blurry it is, number 29, Tyreek Stevenson here, who's getting a lot of grief. And like I said, rightfully so, because right before this point, he was over there yapping to the Washington Commander fans down in the corner of that end zone while the ball was snapped and after the ball was snapped. So he runs in from west towards east and gets out of position, knocks other guys out of where they were supposed to be boxing out, because typically in a Hail Mary like this, you're going to have essentially 3 layers of offensive players. You're going to have one right at the goal line here. You're going to have probably 1, 3, or 4 yards in front of that. Typically like a shiftier type of guy who's almost looking to look for the deflection in case it gets tipped. Because the defenders, of course, are taught to knock it down. They're not supposed to intercept it here unless it just ends up in their hands. So when those defenders knock it down and knock it forward, you're hoping that shiftier guy might end up with the ball in his hands and could move left or right and try to escape, maybe to go. Let me get my, I don't know why I'm trying to hand gesture to y'all here. We would see this guy right here, maybe catch it from here and go there, or look to make any of these guys miss, right? Or then we see where Noah Brown ends up. We would have a guy 3 or 4 yards deep into the end zone. Now, there should be someone from the Chicago Bears defense, 1 or 2 at this level, as there is 2, 1 or 2 at this level, as there should be 2, but there ends up being 3, and then 1 back here, defending each one of those layers of the Hail Mary type of offense in the way that it would be practiced. But because of what Tyreek Stevenson did earlier on, he's completely out of position, and Noah Brown thinks to himself, well, this is even way easier than it was in practice when that tip drill happened. Just boneheaded stuff, obviously, from Tyreek Stevenson. Young guy, I think, 2nd year in the league. Probably will use this as a learning opportunity, or so we would hope, or so you would hope if you were a Chicago Bears fan. And then you see number 31 turn around like, the hell? Where is the guy who was supposed to be back here on 85, who would typically be that bigger bodied type of guy, who might be looking to make a play, who hopefully is sure-handed and the like, right? So these are we're stereotyping to a certain degree as to what should play out, but that's not always what does play out, as we see here on the play, right? So when we really think about what unfolded, let's and I'll probably just look at it here so we can see what's happening. Tyreek Stevenson right there, number 29, enters the mix. Kevin Byard, number 31. Don't know where my guy was. Don't know who was supposed to be on 85. Well, I do know who was supposed to be on 85. Byard is probably thinking to himself, but I don't know where he is. And so we'll see it again down here before we look at what Jayden Daniels might have been looking at to see it play out in its entirety now. Okay. Now, when we really think about this, obviously, every player, when we're talking 11v11, when we see what Jayden Daniels might be looking at and for, right? There's these interactions that are taking place, and there's these problem solution dynamics, as I always talk about here at Football Beyond the Stats, our movement play of the week, this movement problem solver paradigm. Those problem solving or problem solution dynamics have changing states of organization on both sides, right? And so we think about how this plays out. There's all these levels, all these layers, all these interacting component parts. Let's look at what Jayden Daniels is looking at. I don't even know if he sees what we might be able to see now after the fact. And if you're not looking closely, you might not actually see him either. 29, Tyreek Stevenson looking off camera or looking off the field almost down near the end zone. And he's just yapping. You can see his hand gesture. His right hand is up. He's gesturing at the Washington Commanders fan base, running his mouth, talking his shit. 2 seconds left. He thinks this one's in the bag. He's going to learn quickly on this day as well as then now afterwards, I'm guessing, that it's not over in the National Football League until the fat lady sings, and that fat lady doesn't sing until it's zero, like there's zeros online. Look at Stevenson down here, still gesturing, still dancing. Ball is in Jayden Daniels' hand. Okay. These Chicago Bears that my mouse is scrolling over, all looking ahead to see where Daniels is and to see what's about to unfold, not only to them and in front of them, but then as it layers in behind them in the problem solution dynamics in those changing states of organization. We look at what Jayden Daniels might be looking at, and then we're going to talk about what we might be able to do to help facilitate it from this angle. Let's look at how much time Jayden Daniels needs. So if he had this time clock going tick, 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 and it was moving quickly because guys are pushing and pursuing and breaking into the pocket, and he has to escape it and buy more time as he does, you need a guy like a Jayden Daniels. You need a guy like a Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson. These types of guys. Aaron Rodgers obviously wrote the book on Hail Marys. And these types of things, look at them. How I told you guys before, moving north and south and east and west in the pocket. Look at the subtle movement here. Draws guys in, pulls them back out. Okay. He moves in, he moves out, he moves right. Watch him look and absorb what is useful for him, moves back left. We can see it all play out, these problem solution dynamics. And that's why I took the time to describe them once again for you all just a little earlier, because I don't want us to miss the forest through the trees and the what is here. The what is the evolved nature, this functional fit with a constantly changing problem that Jayden Daniels finds himself in here. A lot of quarterbacks, not this calm, not this composed, under this type of pressure, this type of anxiety. A lot of guys get fixed and frozen degrees of freedom. Jayden Daniels just starts playing backyard football, but that backyard football, guys and gals, is very connected to the what is. It is connected to who's there and what is unfolding. All of these dynamics, okay? These defenders, look at where his head just turns and he's not looking just to, but he's looking through. Let's not miss it, because that is the surfer in the wave. What am I talking about to and through? We can think about these layers, okay? All these relationships that are unfolding. Okay. Yes, he is looking to these. And now obviously this one ends up bailing and ends up being a spy. Okay. But then he has to look back here. So he's looking to this first layer and through to the next layer, simultaneously juggling the information sources that inform him as to how he should act, when he should act, and how it is that he's going to be able to solve this problem and interact with that that is the wave. Okay. Really brilliant stuff, really cool stuff here that gives the Washington Commanders the victory on Sunday, the victory that I said earlier they definitely deserved. So you see it play out, and I don't want you guys to miss it. Okay. And that is really the thing that will set the tone for what it is that we could talk about here on how we could train it. How would we train it? Let's go back to that first view. Oftentimes with running backs or quarterbacks, guys that are going to find themselves behind the line of scrimmage with interpersonal distances that are changing quickly, guys pursuing up to them. We might do a lateral cat and mouse type of activity, but we think to ourselves, well, that only has so much relevance because on game day, they're going to be trying to get east and west momentarily, but then get north and south sooner rather than later. That if they do too much dancing to the right or to the left, that more and more guys are going to pursue. But let's think about this respective situation and how we might be able to train it. The one thing that I would say is that if you were going to do cat and mouse type of agility interactions, okay, let's just think I'm myself and a defender. If I'm going to move left and right and try to make that guy miss, we want to think about that first guy having to get past someone. Let's say it's this interaction. Let's say it's this one. Let's say it's that one. It could be any of the three, or it could be all of the three, depending on the level of complexity of the problem that we want to set for the player that we are working with. Okay. We might also then give him something to look at beyond. So if it's a quarterback who might be set up in a situation like this, it wouldn't just be during a Hail Mary, but it could be during any respective play. Having quarterbacks do cat and mouse type of activities where it's a 2v2 type of interaction, maybe a 2v3, himself and an offensive tackle, or a 3v3, excuse me, himself, the quarterback, okay? Maybe it's a offensive tackle, whichever one we want to look at or investigate. And then it would be a wide receiver in a layer against a corner down the field. We typically won't have all of these players at our disposal, at least in my learning environment, though it would be awesome if we did, if it was more of a team environment, right? So that's why I'm saying we might want to set up more of a 3v3 type of interaction. It could also be one of those things where we give him the ball in his hands and he has a certain amount of time to not get touched within the space. Maybe we're drawing, and hopefully some of this stuff makes some sense for y'all. And this is something we might do between the numbers. And typically we'd be talking about something like and now the numbers are way down here. So let's just imagine this with me, if you will. Okay. We might draw a box that he has to stay within. And actually, I wouldn't typically go that far. It would usually be like more like this type of box. Okay. So probably from numbers to numbers, and we'd start him in the middle of the field. So probably right around here. Okay. And he can go anywhere in the box that he wants to with any movement pattern that he so desires and not get touched or tagged by a number of defenders. And we can throw offensive helpers or blockers in there if we wanted to. They could act more passively or they could act actively in trying to block and get to those guys. All I'm really trying to show you guys here is that it's pretty easy to set up problems like this where the quarterback is just playing keep away, essentially, acting as a mouse, getting away from the cat or multiple cats and trying to see how long he can evade that player or those players for. And then, of course, like I mentioned earlier, it isn't just about each one of these respective interactions and getting away from these guys, right? It's not just about staying away from those guys for a certain amount of time and being attuned and sensitive to how they're behaving. It's about also taking in the layers of information that lie beyond. So, to and through. And what lies beyond could be a receiver interacting with the defensive back, could be multiple receivers interacting with multiple defensive backs, like in this case. You can use your imagination. Let's say you don't have the players at all, but you just put a coach back there and he has to evade the defender blocker dyads that are happening in this space. And when the guy down on even if it's just a coach, throws his hands up in the air, that would be the time that he has to look for the opportunity to throw the ball and then to give himself enough space to be able to throw it that distance in an accurate fashion. Guys, what I'm trying to say here is there's a lot of layers of this that we can facilitate if we're looking at it through this problem solver paradigm. And that to me is the cool thing, because my guess is that whoever's working with Jayden Daniels and whoever's working with the Washington Commanders with their practice activity design probably haven't actually even thought about any of this stuff. They're just letting Jayden Daniels do Jayden Daniels special things, right? But there are ways for us to facilitate this if we're looking at the movement and skill execution through this type of lens. Hopefully all of that makes some sense. Hopefully this is a different perspective than that which what you've gathered up to this point from every time that you've seen it leading up to this point through the course of the week. Obviously, if you have thoughts, you have ideas, you have comments, put them in the comment section below. You like this video, give me the thumbs up, hit subscribe, share it with your people. You guys know the ditty. I'm Sean Mishka, the Movement Miyagi. This is Football Beyond the Stats and our Movement Play of the Week. I'll talk to you guys in week 9.